Well, Julian Leeser quit the front bench yesterday and it sent shockwaves through the party. It comes less than a week after the Liberals confirmed that they will oppose the government's model for the Indigenous Voice to Parliament. The outgoing Shadow Indigenous Australians Minister and Shadow Attorney General has received support from both sides of politics, with Liberal and Labor colleagues alike praising him for taking a principled stand. Joining me live now is Liberal MP Bridget Archer. Welcome to the program, Bridget. Really appreciate your time. What do you think about Julian Leeser's stance this morning?
Yeah, look, I think that it is a very principled position from Julian, and one that certainly resonates with the person that I know Julian to be. He's put a lot of work into this issue over many, many years. And, you know, he's found himself in that situation where he's at odds with the party's position. And I think it's a very courageous and principled decision from him.
Yeah, he's on the front bench, of course, so he was in a very tough position indeed. What about you after that party room meeting? Obviously, there were views expressed within that meeting. How do you feel about the party's stance going forward?
Look, obviously I feel disappointed, and I feel disappointed that there was not sort of a free vote provided, I guess, for all of the reasons I think that we have seen in the last few days, with people like Ken Wyatt walking away, Julian being put in this position where he has felt that he's needed to quit the front bench. You know, I think those are good reasons why it would have been preferable to not have taken this position. But notwithstanding that, you know, as a backbencher, of course, free to make those decisions, and I will be actively campaigning for the Yes campaign.
Julian is certainly someone who's worked towards constitutional recognition. He supports the voice in principle, but he does have concerns about it. Do you share those concerns?
Well, Julian, as I said, has done a lot of work on this over many years and is a constitutional conservative. I would not describe myself necessarily as a constitutional conservative. I certainly respect Julian's position and what he is seeking to do. I note that it's still, whilst he seeks to work collaboratively on this issue, that he doesn't also want to stand in the way of it. And I think that's a positive approach. This is a really important once-in-a-generation opportunity, I think, for the country. And it's preferable that we come together and collaborate and work together to get the best outcome, I think. So I'm certainly supportive of Julian expressing those views and seeking to collaborate constructively with the government on those issues. But I note that it's still, either way that goes, I think will not stand in the way of him supporting the referendum later this year.
Yeah, and look, he's very positive, I would say, about the changes he wishes to make in the committee stage of this process and over the next 6 weeks. So I know your principled position on the voice, and that is yes, but would you support some changes being made, like Julian has suggested? Would that make it better in your view?
Look, I think I'm certainly open to that if it was to enhance the possibility of the referendum being successful, which I think is where the position that Julian is coming from, is that if that is going to remove some doubt for some people and enable them to get across the line to support the yes position, then of course I'm open to that. What I am really open to is that we have a positive discussion about this, that we all work together constructively and collaboratively as much as possible towards the referendum and ultimately with a view to it being successful. So we've got to take people along for that, and I think that's what Julian is seeking to do.
What do your constituents say to you? Is it overwhelmingly positive that they like Labor's model of the voice, or they say, look, this needs to happen, but they're concerned about X, Y and Z?
Look, I think there's generally very positive support for the voice. But there is also people who are as yet undecided for a range of reasons, either that they want to hear a bit more information or in many cases, I think it's not dissimilar to what you see in a normal election campaign where people haven't really engaged with the issue so much yet, and they might seek to do that as we get a little bit closer. There are a range of other things happening for people and going on in people's lives that are concerning them as well, obviously. So the voice is not everything that people are talking about at this point. I expect that people will start to engage with it more the closer that we get to the referendum. But certainly my sense is that there is strong support already here on the ground.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I do think there is strong support in the cities, but, I speak to Alice Springs business owners, community leaders in Alice Springs almost every single day, and the voice isn't their priority. I wonder how that sits with you, because the Northern Territory doesn't really get a say in the referendum. That's how the referendum rules work. I mean, it's the majority of states. Territories don't count. Of course, the majority vote across Australia does. And some of these Indigenous communities themselves are really sceptical about how this is going to change their everyday lives. Does that weigh on your mind?
Yeah, I think so. And of course, that is what we are all united in, is wanting to change outcomes for Indigenous people. I think wherever people sit across the spectrum of this conversation, they have that at the front of their mind. Now, people are going to have divergent views about the best way to achieve that. The proposal that we have before us is for constitutional recognition and for the voice. And I believe that will create tangible outcomes. And I think it is, as much as anything, it's saying that we don't accept the current status quo. And I think we all agree on that. And as we move closer towards this referendum, there is going to be a range of views and there is a diversity of opinion on the best way to deal with that issue. But what I would encourage people to do is to keep that in the front of their mind, that everybody is united in a desire to change outcomes for First Nations people.
You often have the courage of your convictions. I think conviction politics is not as common as we would like. But a serious question, Bridget. You often disagree with the leadership in the party room. Why do you want to remain in the Liberal Party?
Look, I think there are several reasons. First of all, I certainly view myself as a Liberal. I am united within the party on our values. I do think that over time we have lost our way in terms of the way that we reflect those values and we allow those values to be reflected. So I think it's important to speak up and say so. I think, I want to see us be the party that we once were. I want to see us return to that strong, proud tradition of the Liberal Party. And I think that we have lost that along the way. I want people to be proud to support us. I'm prepared to fight for that, I guess. Now, I agree with the vast majority of Liberal Party positions. I vote with the party 97% of the time. But when I don't agree, I think it is my responsibility to say so. It's my responsibility to my constituents, but it's also my responsibility to the party because I care about the party and I want it to be better. And I'm prepared to fight for that.
And just quickly before I let you go, Jacinta Price is being talked about as the obvious choice to be the Indigenous Affairs spokesperson for the coalition. Would you like to see that happen?
Look, I don't really have a view in relation to who that person should be or who should take on that role, and that's a decision for the leadership to take. I respect Jacinta Price and the position that she is taking. And as I said, there is, of course, a diversity of views. And my view may be different to hers, but I absolutely respect her right to have that view and to express it. So I don't really have a view on who that person should be, and it should be ultimately up to the leadership to decide.